question on the card before it. And what we're going to do is take like a lottery here in just a moment. I'm going to give two people, give me some numbers, and they'll be announced in just a few seconds. Right back, I'll get those numbers down. In the meantime, let me direct you to our moderator, which is Allison Bruner, TV 3. She does the anchor of the 5 p.m. news. Our timekeeper, Karen Campbell, she also is an anchor on the weekends and a reporter. If I may see Ms. Connie Hess and this is Brenda Hutchinson just for a second. Over this side, please.
Good evening and welcome everyone to the Rockingham County Harrisonburg Sheriff's Debate. Thank you for joining us, everyone in the community. Pretty good turnout tonight, as well as our 3 candidates. You guys could come up here when I call your guys' name. Major Chief Deputy CFS of the Rockingham County Sheriff's Department. You could please make your way up here. Chief of the Woodstock Police Department, Brian Hutchinson. And Kevin Shiflett, Captain in the U.S. Army. We'll kick off the debate. We're going to kick off the debate in just a couple minutes, but first I want to just kind of go through the procedure so you guys know exactly how this debate's going to work tonight. First, each candidate's going to get 3 minutes for their opening statement. They will be selected in a random order. Then we will start off with the 10 questions that will be pulled in the lottery that Frank just talked about. I'm going to have those 10 candidates, if your number is selected, to sit along the front row here. Each candidate then will get 2 minutes to respond to a question that is directed to them. The other candidates will each get 1 minute to rebut that answer. If the question is directed to all 3 candidates, they will each get 2 minutes to answer the question. And we will rotate candidates so it is in a fair order. Then around 8:30 tonight, we're going to ask each candidate to ask 1 question to one other candidate or both candidates. And the candidates will have 2 minutes to answer that question. Then each candidate will get 1 minute to rebut. Finally, we're going to give every candidate 3 minutes to make their closing statements. We're hoping to have this debate wrapped up by 9 o'clock this evening. We want to be respectful to your time. You're all busy, but we're thankful that you guys are here with us. And just as a courtesy this evening, I just want to ask that everyone, if your question is selected, that you refrain and that you keep to your question and be respectful to the candidates. Well, before we get started this evening, I want to first introduce Dewey Ritchie. If he can make his way up here. He is going to open the night with a prayer.
If you would, please stand and join me in a word of prayer. Lord, we pause to give thanks for this great country, for the system of governing ourselves. From our history, we recall the actions of our forefathers who first sought your wisdom in constructing a form of government that we benefit from to this day. Lord, we seek your wisdom, your guidance here tonight. Grant us an open and respectable debate. Grant to all who speak here tonight the courage to speak freely. May our discourse and our differences of views be civil among us. And Lord Jesus Christ, thank you for going to the cross for each and every one of us, that we may have eternal life with you. Amen.
Amen. Okay, and Karen has the 10 numbers that are selected. Each of you on the index card, when you guys wrote your questions, had a number on there, so we're gonna read the first 10 questions, let's do numbers. Okay, if you were number 3, please just make your way up to the front here. And if you could just sit in order, starting to the left of me, make your way to the right. 23. 24. 34. 40. I feel like I'm doing bingo. 18. 38. 15. 21. And 7. Okay, as you guys are making your way to the front here, I'm going to hand it over to the 3 candidates for their opening statements. Major Chief Deputy C.M. Haskell, you first.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm C.M. Hess, an independent candidate for sheriff for the city of Harrisonburg and Rockingham County. I was born and raised in this community. I chose to raise my family here. I have 24 years of law enforcement experience serving the citizens of our community. I started my career with the Harrisonburg Police Department in 1988. The last 16 years I've been with the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office. I started my career as a deputy sheriff assigned to a patrol ship. I've held ranking positions such as corporal, sergeant, which directly supervises the patrol ship. I served as sergeant over our traffic division. I served as a SWAT team member and a team leader. I've held the rank of lieutenant in charge of the patrol division, search and rescue, special operations, and house arrest. For the past 6 years, I've been the major, chief deputy, second in command of the sheriff's office. Currently, I supervise 160 employees over 5 different divisions: the law enforcement division, the jail, which is currently housing over 350 inmates, prisoner transportation, civil process, and court security. I have prepared and implemented over an $11 million budget. As your next sheriff, I will implement a public safety committee consisting of the Harrisonburg Police Department, James Madison University Police Department, Bridgewater Campus Police, and the 6 town police departments, Macedon Police, City County Fire Rescue, to work together to ensure that we provide the citizens of our community public safety. I will develop a community outreach program to educate our seniors on how to avoid becoming victims of identity theft, scams, and telemarketers. I will educate our youth of the dangers of alcohol, gangs, drugs, and social networks. I will develop a house arrest program for nonviolent offenders so restitution and child support can be repaid to victims. This program will free up bed space in our overcrowded jail, which will save taxpayers money. Inmates will be required to be a part of this program, therefore no cost to the community. I will address the shortage of deputies on the street by conducting an audit from day one of every division within the sheriff's office to best determine the manpower is appropriately put into place needed. I will build a relationship with the Board of Supervisors and the City Council, state elected officials,
30 seconds.
to make sure that the funding is restored for law enforcement to put deputies back on the street. Thank you.
Kevin, will you please give us your opening statement? And again, you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Kevin Shiplet, candidate for sheriff of Rockingham County in the city of Harrisonburg. Tonight's the real deal, folks. This is where you, the boss, interview the applicants for the leadership position of law enforcement. A little bit about myself. I'm a Rockingham County Rockingham County graduate of the public school system, JMU graduate, and a 12-year veteran of the United States Army. I enlisted in the Army. I was selected for OCS, commissioned as a second lieutenant. I now hold the rank of captain. Got 2 combat tours overseas in leadership positions. In the Balkans, I was second in command of my 130-man company, and as the officer in charge of all tactical operations for Task Force Overlord in Iraq, I was in charge of 800 troops overseas. Very proud to say, despite being attacked 22 times by the enemy, good leadership brought every one of our soldiers home. Also had a humanitarian tour on day 3 of Katrina when I was a platoon leader, commanding a platoon of 34 soldiers. Currently I'm the commander of 214 soldiers in Lynchburg. I command every aspect of their duty, their pay, their promotion, their training, their mission accomplishment. I know leadership. I prepare an annual budget and I have responsibility for $15.3 million. I've been awarded 21 combat and service medals and distinctions. I'm also a 9-year veteran at the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office. I served as a criminal investigator for major crimes, as a field training officer, as a SWAT team officer, as a patrol deputy, and I was a college intern in the 90s. I learned a lot of great things as an intern. I see a lot of deputies that have retired now that I rode with and learned a lot of things about law enforcement from. When I was at the Sheriff's Office, I made solving cases my priority. I worked traffic also, plenty of DUIs, plenty of drug interdiction. But the big cases is what I wanted to do. That was where I thought our focus should be. Develop things
1 minute.
to bring more focus to case solving. I'm very proud of the fact that I was not the radar guy. 9 years of law enforcement, I wrote 4 speeding tickets. Very proud of that because I know anybody can run a radar gun. Getting the bad guys off the street was my focus. Trying to fix bigger systemic problems was the focus. I see a lot of stickers out here today. What I ask is that the stickers for candidates. You all know I don't do any fundraising, I don't do any of the politics and
30.
stuff. What I ask is that you utilize this session as an interview of your candidates. Many of you, this is the first time you've had all 3 candidates here to actually interview to figure out who the best candidate is. So that's what I ask. You don't actually decide until number 8. Let's tonight get specific. Let's talk about drugs and gangs.
10.
Answers for all of these. Shortage of deputies, jail retention, jail overcrowding, and the promotion process at the Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
And Chief Brian Hutchinson.
Hello, I'm Brian Hutchison. I am the Republican candidate for Sheriff of Rockingham County in the city of Harrisonburg. My campaign slogan is policing for the people. And what that is a proactive approach to law enforcement that we can bring to our community. I can bring that specifically with a leading by example approach. Lead from the top down, set the example for the department. And this approach will focus on 3 particular aspects: increasing and improving the visibility, the accessibility, and the accountability of your sheriff's office. Now, my qualifications for the job, my education, I have a bachelor's degree in business management from Virginia Tech. I have a master's degree in criminal justice from VCU, as well as extensive training at the Virginia State Police Academy as a student. I also served there as an instructor. Those are my qualifications as far as education goes. My experience, I started out as a state trooper on the road, worked my way up through the ranks with the Virginia State Police, serving as an investigator, serving as a supervisor on a wide variety of assignments all across the Commonwealth, the big cities and the small towns alike. Now, the third qualification is ethics. And a big part of this campaign for me has been that very thing, letting people know who I am, who is Brian Hutchison. And that's something that I've wanted to do from day one, and be honest about who I am. You need to know that in determining who you're going to vote for. And who I am, I'm a husband of 17 years. I'm a father of two fine young sons who go to Rockingham County Public Schools. Basically, I went from high school to college to law enforcement. That's the only career I've ever done, and that's all I've ever wanted to do since I was a young child myself. Now, the Republican, part of that is also being honest that I'm a Republican. I have conservative viewpoints, and I'm proud to say that. Does that have a lot to do with the job? No, I agree that it does not. You impartially discharge the duties of this office.
1 minute.
But you also, for the election, everybody needs to know who I am. So that's where I feel it is a relevant point, because we're going to have an election for this. And I'm proud to say that I'm conservative. I have strong Christian morals and values. That's what you're going to get with me. Ethics is the important part of experience, education, and ethics that make up my qualifications for this job. Now, one thing that I'm very proud to say, and I don't know if you saw it in the paper today or not, but I have a copy of it here, is the 1,550 years of experience in law enforcement that supports me. What I would point out is these are retired folks. They don't have anything to gain. I haven't promised them anything. These folks are saying, local law enforcement officers, that they believe in me as the best candidate for this job. Many of these folks are here today. They would gladly talk to you afterwards. If you wish to ask them why, they would tell you why. And I would encourage you to do that, because it's not just me. Ask them. Thank you.
We actually, 3 of the numbers that were chosen were, they're not here. So I'd also like to pick, if you have number 5, if you could come to the stand up front. Do we have a number 5? Okay, 33, 16, 27. Yeah, so if you just make your way down here. 25. Okay, that should. Okay, we want to begin tonight with the questions with the numbers that were chosen. Number 3, if you could please come to the front here and ask your question. We'll have 1 minute. And then again, whatever candidate the question is directed to will have 2 minutes, and then each of you will have a minute to rebut. If you could just please state where you're from and your name and then your question.
My name is Darlene Dolby. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia. This question is for Kevin. How have you connected with the voters since you don't do any campaigning?
Thank you. That's a good question. I do campaign, actually. Every single night, I'm out knocking on doors since I got into the race. Talked to a lot of groups. I'd say probably about every 15th door I knock on, someone, after I give them my speech, they actually invite me to their church group or their civic group and whatnot. I can go speak with them. I just spoke with a group last night, as a matter of fact. I just don't fundraise. I don't do campaign fundraising. If I'm going to fundraise, I'm going to fundraise to send a kid to college or, I don't know, hire a new deputy. I'm not going to fundraise to get a cush job. I feel like that violates the oath police officers take. And then obviously, the website, Facebook, and things like that. The money that I put forth, I mean, I've actually had people give me money for to get brochures printed off and whatnot, but I don't solicit any funds. And I'm very proud of that because I think, do I put out signs? Is the question? I don't have any signs. No, I have.
1 minute.
I have. There's actually a sign just outside, as a matter of fact. But it's not a sign that just says Kevin. That's uninformative. It doesn't tell me anything. The only sign that says Kevin should be on my chest. You know, the sign that I have displays my credentials and actually does a comparison of the 3 candidates. I think that's more informational than just putting out a sign looking for bandwagon voters. Myself, when I have a sign out in the yard for a political office, if it's president or whatever, I don't like the fact that we vote because someone's Republican. I'm a conservative myself. Most of you know that. It's kind of hard to be in the military and law enforcement and not be. But I don't like the people just automatically jump on the bandwagon of a Republican or a Democrat. I put a piece of tape across the Democrat or the Republican on the yard sign if I have one in my yard. That's the only major difference. I just don't ask for money to get a job.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you.
And if Brian Hutchinson, if you will have 1 minute to rebut that.
And I don't know so much about rebutting, and I guess I can make a statement to that effect as far as that whole thing. And I will go back to what I kind of touched on maybe in my opening, is that it's not a political position, okay? I totally agree. You impartially discharge the duties of that office. I've done that for 17 years in law enforcement, okay? You don't look at big or tall, short or small, rich or poor when you do the job. Absolutely not. There's no place for that, okay? You're impartial. But the process by which we determine a sheriff is a political process, period. There's going to be an election. There's going to be votes. My thing is being honest with people. Here's who I am. Here's why I think you should vote for me.
30.
And it's really no more than that. It's just a matter of, I don't think there's a better process to determine a sheriff. Everybody in this room has their one vote. No person is better than anybody else. Everybody has one vote. If you don't like my signs, don't vote for me, I guess. I honestly don't believe that a single person will look at one of my signs and say, wow, that's a pretty red sign. I'm going to vote for Hutchison because of the sign. I think it gets their attention to look at me and make a determination on my qualifications. Thank you.
From the beginning, this election for myself has not been about party politics. It's been about public safety and who is the most experienced and most qualified to be the next sheriff. With that being said, I have raised some money. Brian also has raised some money. I think that was the first part of the question. It was about name recognition, about marketing early on. Now it's about voter identification. So that's my scope of that. Thank you.
And number 23, if you just come up to the podium, hopefully this mic's on, so you, and just please stand here if you have any other further question. I'm sorry, just if you stand here, just make sure.
Okay, this question is for all three candidates, and I'd like to start with Kevin, Brian, and then CM, please. Explain your experience that readies you for maintaining a staff of 170 employees, managing a multi-million-dollar budget, and running all 5 divisions of the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office. Yes, please.
Thank you. Again, I'll reiterate what I said in my opening statement. I've had leadership roles my whole life. Let's see, 800 troops in Iraq, 130 in Kosovo, 30 some in Katrina, command 214 now, and that is every single aspect of their service. Leadership is a huge part of the military. It is what we do, especially the officers and the senior NCOs. As far as the other part was the financial part of it, again, I have $15.3 million that I'm responsible for. It's $4 million more than the sheriff's office budget is currently. I will tell you, I have a little bit easier job though, because our system in the military, most other professional organizations, is fair. You don't have to decide, hey, I'm going to pay this guy more money because, you've heard me say it. I think there's some things that goes on that,
1 minute.
I think things go on at sheriff's offices are wrong. If you help me out, you help me get voted in, then I'll promote you to this position and you'll get more money. I don't have that problem in the Army because we have very strict criteria of how you get promoted and what the senior leaders are looking for in when we go to do a promotion. And then the 5 departments, I can tell you right now, I have
30.
10 major departments in my company alone. I won't list them all, but we have everything from military planners, military intelligence, infantrymen, scouts, artillery, watermen. No matter what it is, no matter what the function that you're performing, leadership qualities are the same.
10.
Thank you.
Okay, and as for my experience with the budget, what I would say to that is, as the chief of police for the town of Woodstock, I have the final say. Okay, it's a $1.5 million budget, but the same procedures and basic concepts apply to a $1.5 million budget as an $11.5 million budget. It's the same principles behind it. You allow for what you need, you try to plan for what you want, and balance out what that bottom line is. It's the same thing. The amount does not make it any different. The only thing that I would argue makes it different is that I have the final say. As the chief, I don't have a finger that I can point at number 1. I don't have anywhere to point it other than right back at myself. If something goes wrong, it's my fault. I have the final say on that budget. If it goes well, great. If it doesn't, guess who's getting the blame for it? So that's what I would say about that. I would say that those tough decisions, when you have final say on the budget, personnel matters, and policy matters, is what makes it tough to be the lead agent, the chief, or the sheriff. When you're in charge, being able to make decisions in those 3 tough areas is what sets you apart, and I have experience with the final say in those
10.
3 areas. And it would be no different as sheriff here. Thank you.
Once again, experience, the right experience. Since 2003, I've had extensive dealings with our regional jail. And as far as the day-to-day supervision, I'm proud to say that we hold 100% compliance, and we've done that for years. And I think Mr. Cuevas can attest to that because he gets some of those reports as a board of supervisor. The next is since 2006, I've had, excuse me, had hands-on experience with not only the budget, but the staffing on a daily basis of over 160 employees, and the supervision as a whole over all 5 divisions in the office. The hands-on experience, the experience that counts.
Will number 24 please step forward and read your question?
My name is Sam Sensadow from Linville, Virginia. This is for all 3. I'd like for Brian, Kevin, and CM to answer. Explain to the crowd your knowledge of the Department of Corrections guidelines for inmates in jail facilities.
We're just going to go in a rotating order. So if Kevin, you could go first. And you'll have 2 minutes.
I don't have extensive experience in knowing every single detail of exactly how often they need to be checked on. If memory serves, it's 15 minutes. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm going to tell you that I'm wrong. I do know that I also don't know every single detail of my military intelligence planners, for instance. I train people, I get them to the point where they are trusted to do their job, and then supervise and refine. That's why we have multiple layers of the sheriff's office insofar as the jail. I can tell you that I did intern in the jail and sat through about 300 hours of sitting in the jail. I know exactly what the jails go through. The level of detail that, for instance, the jail correctional officer would have that's here. I think he's here. I saw him. I think I saw him somewhere. Not many people are going to have that. He's by far the subject matter expert in it. But it's written down. That's why you have people that are managing that, so that you can
1 minute.
stay flexible and manage the process and let the subject matter experts handle it. Again, the other experience I have, obviously, is taking numerous arrests into the jail. I know all the procedures there. There's nothing about that procedure I don't know. If you're asking me if I'm sitting in a pod, how often I need to check on, if I'm sitting in a pod, how often I need to go out, open the door, and check on the inmates to make sure they're haven't hurt themselves or something, my answer is I believe it was 15 minutes. And I think there were some issues with that a couple years ago at the jail. Thank you.
Brian, you will have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. What I would say about that is, quite frankly, I don't have any experience running a jail. The last 2 sheriffs did not have any experience running a jail when they went on day 1 either. So let's not look at that or a quiz on DOC guidelines as to be some sort of prerequisite for this position, or else you would be saying that the past 2 sheriffs that we've had here in Harrisonburg, Rockingham, have not successfully been able to handle that. What I say about it is this: in 2 instances in my career, I have stepped into a situation where it was totally foreign to me, and I was in charge as the final answer. When I was promoted as first sergeant here in Harrisonburg, Rockingham, I had no idea how to be a first sergeant. I didn't know how to run a state police field office for a big county and city such as this. But I know what I did is I got in there and I worked hard, and I learned it as I went through good old-fashioned dedication to service. When I was promoted to chief of police in Woodstock, I didn't know everything about being a chief of police. But the way that I did it was the same way. You get in there and you work hard and you learn it as you go. Dedication to service.
1 minute.
I'm a bit able to learn as I go, and I have that hard working ethic to get it done. So the jail experience, I'm not going to sit here and try to say that I have it when I do not, but again, the past 2 sheriffs do not, and that's something that I would certainly have the ability, the proven ability, to learn as I went. Thank you.
And CM, you will have 2 minutes as well.
Thank you. The Department of Corrections does oversee our jail operations. They set the guidelines. We make sure that we adhere to that. As I elaborated a while ago, we are at a 100% compliance, which that's something that I'm extremely proud of, to be an employee there at the Sheriff's Office, that we've accomplished that for over 5 years now. That's no demerits whatsoever, a perfect score. You can't get any better than that. They always come in and let us know that how proud they are of our facility. That is correct. 15-minute watch is what is required by DOC unless you're in SEG, which is a cell by yourself. That watch is much shorter. We are mandated by the state of Virginia and the Department of Corrections to have a certain amount of correction officers per inmate. That ratio has to be met, which I personally oversee that along with the assistance of a captain and 2 lieutenants.
1 minute.
Thank you.
Will number 34 please come to the podium and read your question?
This is for Sam. Why do you think being born and raised here in the area is important as sheriff?
And CM, you will have 2 minutes to respond to this. Then Hutchinson and Shiflett, you guys will each have 1 minute to rebut to this.
I think it's extremely important to be born and raised here as far as your sheriff is concerned. I know the people, I know the area. This is the 3rd largest county in the state of Virginia. It's almost 900 square miles, so it's extremely important to know that area. Can you learn it? Of course you can. Can you learn this job? Of course you can. But the experience that I have as a homegrown native of this community, I think is extremely important as your next sheriff. Thank you.
Brian, would you like to respond? You will have 1 minute.
Okay, and my response to that would be, as you refer to the good old boy network, and under those, maybe years and years ago, where someone was from would have been a qualification for the job. But I don't view where you were born as a job qualification in any way. I was born and raised in Virginia. I have worked with the state police all around the Commonwealth. I have moved and lived and gone to college in various places all around Virginia. All right, but the point I would like to make here is that I
30 seconds.
chose to make this my home. My wife and I got here, and on the first day we got here, when the state police sent us here, we realized this is where we want to raise our children. This is where we want them to go to school, have friends, go to church. This is where we want them to play Little League and all these other things. This is where we want our roots to be, because there's no place as great
10
as
seconds.
right here. Thank you.
And Kevin as well, you have 1 minute.
Basically ditto. I chose to live here. The one decision none of us in this room made is where we were going to be born. Guarantee you didn't make that decision. Where I was born was where I was born. Very close to Virginia, in D.C. I lived there until I was 15, and then at the first opportunity that I couldn't do it on my own, but I came to live here in the Valley and haven't turned back. Very proud to graduate from Rockingham County Public Schools, went to college here. I love it, never leave.
30 seconds. We're just moving right along. Number 40, if you will please come to the podium and read your question. Okay. Number 18 then? Thank you. And if you could just stand there in case you have further questions.
Okay. My name is Butch Strowman. I'm from Harrisonburg. This question is Mr. Hutchinson. You promised on your website to ride in a marked car while sheriff to improve visibility of the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office. Yet in Woodstock, you drive in an unmarked car. Isn't this somewhat hypocritical?
And Brian, you will have 2 minutes to respond.
Okay, thank you, and that's an easy one. The difference there is, in the town of Woodstock, we do not have take-home vehicles. Here in the county, they do have take-home vehicles. In the town of Woodstock, we're just not fortunate enough. I think they're a great thing to have, and they do help improve visibility. However, we just don't, and it comes down to money, as it always does. We don't have the money for every officer, actually no officer, not a single officer in my department has a take-home vehicle. So it's really not an option, but we're limited in the vehicles that we have. We actually have 2 officers assigned to each vehicle. So the marked vehicles that we have are pretty much allocated for, they're out on the roads on patrol. So as an administrator, I don't get a chance to drive a vehicle such as that. But when I'm here and there are take-home vehicles available, make no doubt about it, what will be sitting in my driveway and what will pull out of my driveway will not be a black Dodge Charger. It will be a marked patrol vehicle.
CM, if you'd like to respond, you'll have 1 minute. 1 minute beginning now.
The majority of our fleet is a marked patrol unit, fully marked. Some, over the years, we have alleviated the bar light, but we copied the Virginia State Police when we did that, just trying to save money and get that stealth look as far as traffic enforcement. I particularly drive a unmarked vehicle. I wouldn't have any preference as to whether it would be unmarked or marked. As your sheriff and in my current position as chief deputy, I don't have a whole lot of time to go out and actually patrol the roads and write tickets. One day I did that years ago, but the time is not now, and I actually don't have the time to do it with the schedule that we have to keep and the meetings that we have to attend. Thank you.
Kevin, you will as well have 1 minute to respond, starting now.
Yeah, I got to echo CM on this one. If you're the sheriff and you're worried about what clothes you're going to be wearing and what kind of car you're driving, you're thinking way too low level. You need to be worried about big picture stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff that's that you should have your hands in. And out patrolling yourself or trying to impress the citizenry just so you can get elected, I just don't see it. I mean, there's a saying in the Army, if you're in charge, if you're a commander like me, you're in charge and you're pulling the trigger in a firefight, you're probably getting ready to be overrun. If you're doing that low-level type stuff, outright tickets and things like that, there is so much else with your time that you could be affecting, developing people to do that type of activity. So it's just such a minor issue. Thank you.
And will question number 15 please come to the podium?
Bucky Berry, this is the City of Harrisburg. This question's for CMS. When an officer under oath takes a job at Rockingham County Sheriff's Department, he signs under oath, he shouldn't be drinking, driving, on duty, off duty. I like to see something stricter than what's in place right now, because what's there right now is not cutting it, because it's not being followed.
And CM, you will have 2 minutes.
Excellent question, Bucky. Excellent question. Currently, we do have a policy that's set in place. Sheriff Farley obviously is the #1 person at the office. He has sole discretion over every discipline matter that happens internally inside the office. Just a week or 2 weeks ago, I rolled out my conduct policy, which has teeth to it. You violate the policy, it has consequences. And for alcohol, to let you know, it's 0 tolerance. Under my administration, I can only speak as to what I would do as your next sheriff. I cannot speak or I cannot change policy of what is happening today. I can, however, and I have since 2006, since I was put in a position that I could address things with the sheriff as his chief deputy. I have given my opinion, and not always it's been listened to. Thank you.
And Kevin, you'll have 1 minute.
Our response to that is when you're second in command, it means you're first in line to stop wrongdoing. If someone above you is doing wrongdoing, you don't let it happen. No order is valid if it's illegal, immoral, or unethical. There's always someone to tell. Unfortunately, with the sheriff's office, which is why I want to get away from the sheriff's office, and hopefully someone will ask me about that in a minute with other alternatives. But at any rate, you got to stand up and do something. You got to have some intestinal fortitude and stiffen your spine and do it. That means you need to go to the board of supervisors with somebody. You can't do that.
30 seconds.
And so far as policy, there are 9 violations. 9 violations occurred under the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office Rights and Responsibilities Manual 1-7 employee discipline. I read this out at a press conference the other day. You can read it. If this is your document, folks, you're the taxpayers. You can have
10
this.
seconds.
It's got to be enforced. It's not what it's written on. Also, here's the other policy. It's called the Code of Virginia. Cops should not be committing crimes, period.
And Brian, you will have 1 minute.
Thank you, and I knew there was a reason he had that code book, and I was going to say the very same thing there. If it's greater than policy, the Code of Virginia, the laws of Virginia supersede any policy that any sheriff or chief or anyone can make, and that's what we follow. If we're talking about a breach of the law, let's not confuse that with policy. Now, as for policy, the sheriff's office is a fully accredited department, so they're required to have a policy in place, and they have had a policy in place. It's not a matter of let's blame the policy. Let's blame
30 seconds.
why was it not enforced. That's the real question. You're coming out with a spin and saying, well, I've got this new and improved policy. Well, you had one, but if it's not being enforced, well, what good is it? It's just words on a paper, and who are we kidding? That's my whole thing with it, is you must follow it, you must enforce it, and that's everybody, all administrators' duty
10
to see that that is followed as it should be. Thank you.
Will number 21 please come to the podium?
Hi, my name is Sherry Hinkle. I'm from Folkston, Virginia. This is for Major Hess. If you're in charge of the Sheriff's Department's operation of daily encounters, why is the title of sheriff so important? And if you would remain in the position that you are in now, and you could work together with a new sheriff, why would that be important to you to have the title of sheriff?
And CM, you will have 2 minutes.
When I got into law enforcement in 1988, I wanted, just like anybody else that got into law enforcement, to progress over the years as high as I could get. I've had a very promising career for 24 years, untarnished career. Never been investigated, never had an IA done on me, done everything in my power to do it right, to provide public safety for the citizens. Over those 24 years, obviously I wanted to progress and make supervision. That was my main goal when I started in law enforcement. I wanted to be a sergeant. I achieved that. The next was obviously to progress on. I've bypassed one rank in 24 years, and that's captain. I've never had that rank. I was promoted to chief deputy in 2006, and obviously I just want a promotion. I want to continue to serve the community that I was born and raised in, that I have for the last 24 years. Thank you.
And Brian, if you'd like to respond, you will have 1 minute.
And I don't know that there's anything for me to rebut there. I guess what I would say to that is the reason I'm seeking the position of sheriff and the reason I'm asking for your vote for sheriff is because of my qualifications. I strongly believe in my experience, my education, and my ethics to get this job done right, serve the public the way they deserve to be served with the highest standard of law enforcement. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Kevin, you will have 1 minute.
Actually, never wanted to be sheriff. Never thought I would want to. There's just so much that goes on that needs to be fixed. I think one mistake I made in law enforcement was thinking you could fix it from the bottom up, and that's really hard when the system is as broken as it is. Again, I have specific alternatives for what it should be. I can tell you one thing: it's not about the paycheck, because this job is well overpaid. At what,
30
$123,000
seconds.
with, I think, $12,000 in fringe benefits, way overpaid. When we laid off 10% of our force, nobody took a pay cut. They just laid off deputies, and you folks felt the pain from that, from less law enforcement. My plan is to give a lot of that back to the sheriff's office, keep people around using that pay. There's no reason it needs to be paid that much. Thank you.
Will number 16 please come to the podium?
My name's Pam Berry. I want Kevin to answer this question. Why was Chris Monahan in the car with Don Farley drinking and promoted to sergeant? Should not be drinking and driving a county cruiser and taking Don Farley home, and should be fired.
Looking up there for Ann. See if it's gonna come down on me. I don't know, your question was why? I don't know.
Do you
That's
want to
the
repeat
answer.
the question?
No, I think I got it. I think I'm okay. Your question was why. The direct answer to that is I don't know. You know, I wasn't there. I know everybody at the sheriff's office. I think everybody at the sheriff's office are good people. 90% of them try to break out of the system and make things better. I think there are certain folks, and I'm not talking about anybody specific, I think there's certain folks, though, that understand the system of the sheriff's office is to, the best way to get promoted is to associate with certain people in the administration and do things of that nature. I want to take a huge look at the way we promote people at the sheriff's office. I say promote, it's not really a promotion, it's a payback system at the sheriff's office. A promotion is fair, balanced, and yields the best leader. I don't think that always happens. I think there's certain things that come to the sheriff's office that are, that's what I can describe it as shady. And again, there's nothing personal towards anybody. I know, like I said, I know everybody there.
1 minute.
I think the bigger question is, why does leadership fail us? Why doesn't someone step up and do the right thing? You know, against overwhelming odds, every soldier I've ever served with has been trained, you step up and do the right thing. Even if nobody's looking, you step up and have some integrity and do the right thing. And I don't think that's always done. Thank you.
And CM, you'll have 2 minutes.
First and foremost, I refuse to make excuses over the incident that I think Ms. Berry's talking about. I will not take criticism because I wasn't there. I can't judge what happened that day because I was not there. The biggest thing that has brought to light here recently is obviously on the website on the blog that the true and accurate description of what happened that day is actually out there. That's my first knowledge of the actual incident. If anybody dropped the ball here, it was Virginia State Police. If they think that it was actually something that needed to be done that day, it should have been done. I'm not condoning, as far as the laughing and stuff, I'm not condoning what Sheriff Farley is accused of doing, because I think that it's not appropriate. It's not appropriate whatsoever. And under my administration, it won't happen. It will not happen under my administration. But if something should have been done, it should have been done that day. It was in another county, it was not here locally, and you can't hold the people accountable that wasn't there. Hold Sheriff Farley accountable.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And that's great to just say, well, let's hold the sheriff accountable. However, when that sort of behavior, when that goes on, and you're aware of it, now I don't know if we're expected to believe that we were not made aware of that until recently when the newspaper came out about it, but I can promise you, the very next morning while I was chief of police in Woodstock in July of 2010, I knew all about that event myself. So we have a problem with leadership down here if the people down here didn't know about it, because I can promise you. I say this, you either approve of that behavior or you disapprove of it. You either take sanctions against it or you turn your head the other way. And I think we see what was done here. Quite honestly, I think in a way we have embraced that behavior, because we're talking about a person who has been a very active member of Major Hess's campaign. Let's just call it like it is, okay? So is that a de facto approval of that sort of behavior? Well, you answer that question for yourself. But I know what it looks like from where I stand. You either call it what it is and blame the Virginia State Police. Let's blame the trooper for whatever action should or should not have been taken. Well, what about the person driving a county vehicle back from a golf course and a person sitting beside him at a .07 back from a golf course in a county vehicle while drinking? Is it just me, or is that absurd? Thank you.
Rule number 27, please come and read your question.
Good evening. My name is Lou Warner, and I'm from Massanutten. And first, I'd like to thank each of you for your public service. This question is for Chief Hutchinson. In the August 31st edition of the Daily News Record, it was stated that you had accepted an invitation to speak to the Democratic Party of Harrisonburg and Rockingham County, only to withdraw your commitment less than 24 hours later. Given your relatively short time as First Sergeant in the Area 16 office and your decision to leave the Woodstock Police Department after less than 1 year, why should the citizens of Harrisonburg and Rockingham County trust that you wouldn't leave the office of sheriff just because something else came along?
Brian, you will have 2 minutes.
Very good. Okay, and to just start with that, what I received, and I have a copy of it, which I'd gladly show to anyone. I've actually already shown it to the DNR. What was sent to me was an invitation to a meeting, to attend a meeting. Now, the next day I find out, well, it's a fundraiser, the biggest fundraiser that the Democratic Party has every year. Now, that's akin to if I invite you over to my house for a picnic and well, actually it's a birthday party. Well, two entirely different things. I never accepted an invitation to a fundraiser. I accepted to a meeting, and then the explanation was given, probably in that same issue of the paper, was that I thought he knew. He should have known. Well, I'm sorry if I'm guilty of anything. I'm guilty of not being cognizant of local Democratic fundraisers. When they have their annual fundraiser, it's Labor Day weekend every year. I never knew that. I called our Commonwealth Attorney, Marcia Garst. She didn't know that. She said, if it's a meeting, go. I found out it was a fundraiser. Well, that's entirely different because the funds from that event is going to be used. Let's just tell it like it is.
1 minute.
The purpose of it is to raise money. One of those purposes is for campaigns in 2012, one of which is President Obama. Okay? And I'm not going to have a de facto endorsement of that. That's contrary to what I believe in. Okay? All three of us stood at the Tea Party and said that we did not vote for Obama. We all unilaterally said that. However, I was the only one to stand up and say, not only did I not vote for him, I'm not going to be a part of a fundraiser that may gain funds for him. Now, a meeting is one thing. A picnic is one thing. But a birthday party is something else, okay? Don't not put in the invitation that it's a fundraiser and think, I should have known, because in the same breath, that's saying that I did not tell him. Thank you.
Excuse me. Can I ask if he answered the question? He did not answer the question that I asked him. No, he did not. He made a statement. I asked, why would the citizens of Harrisonburg and Rockingham County not expect you to leave the office of sheriff just because something else came along?
We're going to have the other two respond, and then you can have a minute to respond.
Sure.
After yes. Sam, you'll get 1 minute. You feel like it wasn't answered? Well, he had his 2 minutes, so that's up. 1 minute.
Party politics at its best. That's what that is. I chose to run as an independent because I wanted to be for all the people. I serve everyone in this room. As your next sheriff, I will serve everyone in this room. If I recall, and Kevin's getting ready to talk here in just a minute, it didn't cost me a dime to go to that. I was not contributing to any fundraiser. We were invited guests to attend to address a group of citizens of this community and have a nice meal. I did not have
Basically, who cares if you're Democrats or Republicans or Libertarians? There's no need to not go talk to your future boss. You know, not a Democrat, but I went. I kind of went a step beyond. I mean, I don't really care if I give them a few dollars. I true to my message of not getting favors from this job and whatnot. I actually paid for my own meal. They were going to let me all eat for free, but I actually paid for it. But I also declared I'm not accepting any funds from any political party. I do think Brian made a mistake. I think he should not have turned down an invitation to speak to any citizen in Rockingham County at any time.
30 seconds.
And you wonder why I speak out against politics. Now, I know we're a conservative area. Okay, there's more Republicans out there than there are Democrats. Might not always be that one day. Might not always be that way one day. All right. What if there are more Democrats out there one day? Do you want a Democratic sheriff candidate turning you down and saying, I'm not going to come and talk to your fundraising event? I found a way to go talk to people and have nothing to do with fundraising. Thank you.
Will number 25 please come to the podium and ask their question?
My question's pretty simple compared to theirs. This is for all three candidates. Why is jail experience important?
Okay, we are going to begin with CM. We're going to go in the opposite order. You guys will each have 2 minutes.
Why is jail experience important? Obviously, we run a regional jail for our locality, which all incorporated counties utilize. James Madison University utilizes it, City of Harrisonburg utilizes it, EMU when they make arrests. So it's a large outfit. It's our biggest responsibility at the Sheriff's Office. When that jail was built in '94, I think it was built to house 144 inmates. I may be wrong about that in '94 because I wasn't there. But right now, on a daily basis, we're over 350 inmates. That's a lot of people. We got people sleeping on the floors. If we don't do something eventually to address that situation, it's not only putting my correctional officers in harm's way, it's actually putting the inmates in harm's way because we are overcrowded. We need to start looking at something to alleviate that problem. Thank you.
Brian, you have 2 minutes.
And I think that's similar to the prior question as far as jail experience. I don't see that, going by the past couple of sheriffs that we have had, I don't see the relevance of that being an absolute qualification. You learn it as you go. There's no tricks. You rely on people that know it, and hard work and dedication lets you figure out what are we doing with the jail, how can we do it better. You assess that just like you assess any other thing within your department. And I just, again, I don't see that as being a pertinent prerequisite. It's something that with my abilities of learning as I go, get in there and work hard and figure it out, it can be overcome just fine. Thank you.
And Kevin, you have 2 minutes.
I kind of disagree with Brian. I think that there is something to be said about having some knowledge of the jail, having actually sit in the pod all night. It's gruesome. Knowing the intricacies of things that happen there. I think it gives you a perspective that does not allow you to just jump in with both feet first and say, well, we need to build a new jail or farm it out to a private company. I think there's a lot of things that need to be done at the jail to deal with the overcrowding. We all know how it is. It's 16 years old and it's already overloaded. It was built in a landlocked position, terrible location for it. There was no vision to project forward and say we might want to build this thing bigger one day. We also failed, or the leadership failed to procure land that's around it so we could feasibly build onto it later on. That's going to be a difficult task to tackle one day. However, before we ever go to build a new jail, and eventually it'll happen, next year, 50 years from now, I don't know, but sometime we got to build a new jail. However,
1 minute.
Before we get there, a lot of things we need to do first, and this is the experience I think that having worked there as with CM bring to the table. I would bring back the RAID program. It was run poorly and run down. Most deputies out here know what RAID is. It's a work release program. I would utilize community to implement pro bono programs to help inmates from repeating the crimes. Utilize local colleges to conduct a pro bono assessment to determine what other people have done about solving the jail problems.
30 seconds.
I'll give CM credit for an idea that he's mentioned at another time, renting out beds in other jails. He says it's financially not feasible right now. I would revisit that idea before we go building a new one. We also at some point need to think about building a regional jail, a true regional jail, for a lot of the other counties around here. The sheriff takes a pay cut if he has a regional jail. Good. Thank you.
I believe that we have answered all 10 candidates, or 10 of your guys' questions. We are going to announce the next group of people. If you guys could make your way, actually over here, if you guys just sit over here. Who has number 1? Number 12. Number 31. $29. Does somebody have 29? Okay, number 19, number 35, does somebody have 35? 10, number 10, number 26. Okay, perfect. Number 2. And number 32. Don't see number 32. Number 30. And number 8. Do a couple